नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामीशा पुराणार्को धुनोदितः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, fifth chapter and 13th verse. So as we were discussing before, and the fifth chapter is entitled Vidura's talk with Maitreya. So Vidura meets Maitreya at the on the bank of Ganga near Haridwar. And after meeting with Maitreya Muni, he asked questions, many questions. So the verse number first was about saying that how to live in real happiness. And then in verse number 3 and 4, he discusses about devotees travel to show compassion on fallen souls. Last time we discussed why devotees travel. So these verses tell about that. And then from 5 to 9, he asks questions about, please describe the Purusha avatars, the Virata Rupa, the Leela avatars, living conditions on different planets and different living entities to me. So to Maitreya Muni, he is asking these questions. And in the 10th verse, he actually tells that I don't receive any satiation by just listening to Mahabharata. But he says in that verse, that is in the 12th actually, yes, no satiation. And then he says the purpose of Mahabharata. Like for example, these series of verses from 10 to 16, it is Vidura's exclusive interest in Krishna Katha. So in the 10th verse, he says, there is no lesser topics, like no important topics than Krishna Katha itself. And then he is mentioning that when there is Krishna Katha in 11th chapter, in 11th verse, he says, there is no satiation. Who in human society can be fully satisfied when hearing the talks of the Lord? That is, he is called as Tirthapada. In his lotus feet, all the Tirthas lie. And then the 12th verse, and this verse comes after the 12th verse. The 12th verse, he describes about Mahabharata. He says to Maitreya Muni that your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha. So in Mahabharata, where is the description of Krishna Katha? Anybody knows?
Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita. That is very true. So that is Krishna Katha is Bhagavad Gita through their strong affinity. So then in this verse, it is linked to that conversation when he is discussing about Krishna Katha. And then this verse is spoken. So let's recite this verse and then we'll discuss more. Sa shraddhadhanasya vivardhamana
Shraddhadhanasya vivardhamana
Shakti manyantra. Ek minute, just a minute. I'll just increase the sound so that it comes nicely. Virakti manyantra karoti punsaha.
Virakti manyantra karoti punsaha
Hare padanusmriti nivrutasya.
Hare padanusmriti nivritasya
Dukkhapyayamashu
Samasta dukkhapayamasudhate.
Second time. Sa shraddhadhanasya vivardhamana
Shraddhadhanasya vivardhamana
Virakti manyantra karoti punsaha.
Virakti
विरक्तिमन्यत्र
manyatra karoti
करोति
pumsaha.
पुंसः
Harehe padanusmriti nivrutasya.
हरेः
Padanusmriti
पदानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
nivritasya.
Dukkhapyayamasu dhatte.
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
More time. Shashraddhadhanasya vivardhamana.
Sa
सा
shraddhanasya
श्रद्धदानस्य
vivardhamana.
विवर्धमाना
Virakti manyatra karoti pumsaha.
Virakti manyatra
विरक्तिमन्यत्र
karoti
करोति
pumsaha.
पुंसः
Harehe padanusmriti nivrutasya.
Hare
हरेः
padanusmriti
पदानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
nivritasya.
Hasta dukkhapyayamashu dhatte.
Samasta
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
So please recite some voluntary recitations.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु
Hare Krishna Mataji.
सश्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना
श्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना
विरक्तिमन्यत्र करोति पुंसः
विरक्तिमन्यत्र करोति पुंसाः
हरे पदानुस्मृतिनिर्वृतस्य
Hare
हरे
pada
पदानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
दत्ते थैंक यू प्रभु
Thank you, Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण
Second recitation.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु I can try.
Yeah, Mataji.
सा श्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना
Sa shraddhadhanasya vivardhamana.
विरक्तिमन्यत्र करोति पुंसाः
Virakti manyantra karoti pumsaha.
हरेः पादानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
Harehe padanusmriti nivrutasya.
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
Samasta dukkhapyayamashu dhatte. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. One more recitation.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु
Hare Krishna.
सा श्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना
श्रद्धदानस्य
शान्तस्य
विवर्धमाना
विवर्धमाना
विरक्तिमन्यत्र करोति पुंसः
विरक्तिमन्यत्र
विरक्तिमन्यत्र
करोति
करोति
पुंसः
पुंसाः
हरेः पदानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
हरेः
पादानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
पादानुस्मृतिनिवृतस्य
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते
समस्तदुःखाप्ययमाशु धत्ते.
Thank you, Prabhu.
थैंक यू प्रभु
So here in this verse, as I was discussing, it is a continuation from the previous verse. And this set of verses, Lord Vidura is discussing about Krishna Katha, about hearing Krishna Katha, about discussing Krishna Katha. So here you can see Sa is a continuation from the Sa is talking about the Krishna Katha because it is continuation from the previous. Sa means topics related to Krishna Katha. Shraddhadhanasya. Shraddhadhanasya means people who have Shraddha or anxiety or anxiously wanted to hear. So Shraddhadhanasya Vivardhamana. People who have Shraddha. Vivardhamana means continually increasing. And then what increases? Viraktim anyantra karoti punsa. When there is a topic, like Sa means Krishna Katha, Shraddha Dhanasya means when there is a Shraddha, and which increases with time, what happens? Viraktim anyatra karoti punsa. So it becomes, anyatra means other topics other than Krishna. The virakti is developed or the distaste is developed for those kind of discussions. Karoti punsa is one who is engaged in this kind of thing develops a virakti or distaste or or virakti is also called as indifference. Then Harehe Padanusmriti Nivrutasya. Then what happens when a lot of hearing goes? Then the remembrance comes. Harehe Padanusmriti. Harehe means Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padanusmriti, sorry. On his lotus feet, always the remembrance is always thinking about the Lord's lotus feet. So Nivrutasya, what happens? That bliss is developed within the heart. So when that is developed, what happens? Samasta dukkha apyaya. So all the different distresses are apyaya means vanquished. Ashu means very quickly. And dhatte is executed. This is very quickly executed. So two things are discussed here. By discussing Krishna Katha, by people who have anxiousness to hear, their anxiousness, their Shraddha increases. And because of the increase in the Shraddha and because of hearing that, indifference to the topics which is not related to Krishna is developed. And what it results in? It results in the remembrance of the Supreme Lord, of his lotus feet, and that person gets bliss in his heart. And by the bliss, what happens? Samasta dukkhapyaya. Everything, every misery, material miseries are, because he gets spiritual pleasure. So material miseries are all vanquished quickly. So let's read the translation and discuss more.
For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all his miseries without delay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is all we discussed now. Let's read the purport.
We must certainly know that on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are one and the same. The Lord is the absolute truth, and therefore his name, form, quality, etc., which are all understood to be Krishna Katha, are non-different from him. Bhagavad Gita being spoken by the Lord is as good as the Lord himself. When a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not so for the mundane wrangler. All the potency of the Lord are there when one reads Bhagavad Gita, provided it is read in the way recommended in the Gita by the Lord himself. One cannot foolishly manufacture an interpretation of Bhagavad Gita and still bring about transcendental benefit. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or interpretation from Bhagavad Gita for an ulterior motive is not Shraddhanupumsa, one engaged anxiously in bona fide hearing of Krishna Katha. Such a person cannot derive. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. Such a person cannot derive any benefit from reading Bhagavad Gita. However great a scholar he may be in the estimation of a layman. The Shraddhana or faithful devotee can actually derive all the benefits of Bhagavad Gita because by the omnipotency of the Lord he achieves the transcendental bliss which vanquishes attachment and nullifies all concomitant material miseries. Only the devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. The pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing Krishna Katha. For such a devotee, there is no such thing as material existence, and the much advertised bliss of Brahmananda is like a fig for the devotee who is in the midst of the transcendental ocean of bliss. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So let's discuss. So here, Prabhupada starts with saying that on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are the same. As also it is described in various other scriptures, that Lord is the absolute truth, and therefore his name, form, quality, paraphernalia is non-different from him. So it has the similar qualities as the Lord. So, and then Prabhupada says that Krishna Katha is non-different from Krishna himself. So why he discusses about Bhagavad Gita here? Because it is a continuation from the previous verse where Mahabharata is being described, that it is being described so that people, general mass of people will know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Mahabharata, the description of Bhagavad Gita is there, which is the Gita Upanishad. And that makes the remembrance of Krishna or Krishna Katha right there. There is about Krishna also in Mahabharata, but Bhagavad Gita is giving the knowledge that Krishna is imparting unto Arjuna. So it says being spoken by the Lord. Another thing about Bhagavad Gita, it is spoken by the Lord himself. Mahabharata may be narrated or written by Veda Vyasa, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, but Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord himself. So that is good as Lord himself, it says. And every place Bhagavad Gita is being described here, that is as good as seeing the Lord face to face, it says. And then Srila Prabhupada says, one should not manufacture his own thoughts about what Krishna is saying and give his own interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. It should be done in a bona fide way in the disciplic succession through Krishna himself. If that is done by the devotees of the Lord, then the purport is described in its true form. Otherwise, it is lost in translation. Like, for example, if there is a unbroken chain of disciplic succession, when the knowledge is imparted, it comes from one disciple to the from guru to the disciple, and from one disciple to another, and the chain is unbroken, and the knowledge which is there coming from the ultimate, from the param guru, reaches to whoever is being now there in that disciplic succession, unbroken, unchanged. But if it is not in a disciplic succession, what happens? So many changes happen, and even that guru has no guru. Like, a good disciple has a guru. So if somebody started, like starts a new thing and he tries to describe on his own without having that knowledge from the parampara, then it's very difficult to actually or factually understand what Krishna is saying. So that's why it is mentioned to take guidance in the disciplic succession. And then here it's said that the Shraddhadhana or faithful devotee can actually derive the benefits of Bhagavad Gita, because by the omnipotency of the Lord, he achieved the transcendental bliss. So here in this verse, it says transcendental bliss. So you can see here, Padanusmriti Nivrutasya. So because of all these Shraddha and hearing about Krishna Katha and developing distaste about this, things which are of material nature, what happens? That things of our material nature, because attraction is towards Krishna, all those things which are material, they are still there, but the attraction decreases, because the attraction is more towards the Supreme Lord. The attraction to the material things decreases. And our real nature is spiritual. We are the spirit soul. So we have a spiritual existence, but we are encaged within this body, which we falsely identify as our own self. So it is encaged. So that engagement or that conditioning makes us think such a way that we could not understand the Supreme Lord. That we, as we discussed previously, that we become vimukha from the Lord. We want to become Lord ourselves. We want to have our supremacy. So here, as it says here, only a devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. Why? Because these are, like, somebody may think, oh, how by Lord's lotus feet someone can achieve, by thinking about Lord's lotus feet, Someone can think about like the bliss. How he can get the bliss? Because there is no material distress. When the distress is gone, the bliss is automatically there. Or you can say when there is supreme bliss, the distress is automatically gone. So that's why a devotee can understand this. The pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life. Here says enjoys. And this enjoyment is spiritual enjoyment. And by how? By constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord. And how he remembers? By hearing about Krishna Katha. More he hears Krishna Katha, more remembrance, more his mind is focused more on thinking about the Lord. And because of the remembrance, then the bliss develops in the heart. And automatically all other miseries are being vanquished. Material miseries, when somebody is in the material world, the miseries will remain. But he becomes aloof to those things. Or he became transcendental to those miseries. So those miseries, even though there, does not do anything to him. So that is how he disconnects from the miseries, by thinking about the Lord constantly. For such a devotee, there is no such thing as material existence. He thinks even in this world itself, he is in the spiritual consciousness, and it's the spiritual. There is no material thing here. Everything is spiritual. In his mind, in his consciousness, he's always there. And the much advertised bliss of Brahmananda, when Brahmananda is being told that one who receives Brahmananda means, it is like we understand the Supreme Lord, absolute truth in three different understanding is there. First, the primary understanding is Brahma, then is Paramatma, and then is Bhagavan. In the bhakti process, we try to approach Bhagavan consciousness, and Bhagavan includes all the three others, all the two others, like for example, Paramatma as well as Brahma. But one who is just thinking about Brahma and the Brahmananda is like a fig. Fig means a very, it's a slang which in the English language it tells that has no importance for a devotee who is in the midst of transcendental, who is in the complete bliss. What the Brahmananda would like to be a very little spark there. Actually, our great acharyas in the line, they mentioned this Brahmananda as a very, very, like we can say, even though it's an important thing for people who are going into the transcendental realization, but for a devotee who is completely in the bliss of thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord, is just like a speck of bliss, which is no comparison with in the ocean. Like, can think about a drop. It's kind of a drop or less than a drop for him, because he's totally immersed in that bliss. So I'll pause my discussion here. But what we learn from this verse is that we have to constantly hear Krishna Katha and have that ruchi or desire to hear Krishna Katha. By that, our mind will be focused at the lotus feet of the Lord, and also it will be filled with the desire to always remember Krishna 24 hours, all the time, whatever we do. And because of that, all the distress will be taken care of. Not only distress, we can, at the end of our life, go to the spiritual world and go back to Godhead, as Prabhupada says. So I'll pause here and we'll invite more discussions. Any discussions or any points, any corrections, any realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. I'm Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing through the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada purports. It's so enlivening. As the verse was recited, I was very curious to hear what Srila Prabhupada was saying. And Acharya is so straight and so clear. There is no budging from the lotus feet of the Lord. and there is no compromise in the mood or in the philosophy, no beating around the bush. This is service to the lotus feet of the Lord. It gives you the pleasure, and that's it. That was like, wow, I got my nectar today. And that's one thing, Prabhu. Second thing is when Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna himself, Govinda himself, then Govinda, Krishna is very powerful. Holy name, Bhagavatam is Govinda himself. They're so powerful. And so as the Acharyas, who is carrying Govinda in their heart, they're so powerful. So when these Acharyas are speaking about Govinda, it is pretty much very potent and powerful. Then I'm thinking, when Bhagavatam is saying, when we hear Krishna Katha, then the detachment happens. Sashratta dhanasya vivardhamana. Virakti manyatra karoti pumsa. These beautiful things, just detachment by default happens because the attachment to Govinda is increasing. So I'm thinking, Prabhu, why does it take a little time for some and a lot of time for others when this potent katha is coming from these pure acharyas? Then I was thinking, like Srimad Bhagavatam, the speaker is so potent there, so as the listener. So here, in my case, the speaker is very potent. Srila Prabhupada Acharya's purports. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. How am I receiving what is coming? So am I really receiving in that mood? In that mood of, this is something from the Lord for me. Am I really receiving that as prasad? And am I really serious about implementing what am I receiving? So that part needs to be fixed from my end, because the other end is perfect. And as much as I can fix from my end, then so much results can I see. Having said that, this can be taken as an inspiration for me when I need. But if it is overwhelming for somebody else, then they can just say, okay, I'm doing my best. I'll take a little bit at a time. However we want to take it. But this is nice, Prabhu. Just wanted to remind myself about this, and that's why voicing it out. Thank you. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, Mataji. This is a wonderful reminder. It's a wonderful reminder that we have to put the things into our own practice. But I think it differs from person to person who is at the receiving end, because the giving end is perfect. The receiving end has to get some kind of qualifications to get that perfect thing. And one other qualification is to listen it in the association of devotees. And because of their mercy, somehow, because we don't have that qualification, because of their mercy, we can actually get more out of what is being there. Thank you, Mataji. That's a wonderful realization. Any other realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you, Mataji. I was thinking the same thing, that when Srimad Bhagavatam is saying that by hearing we remember and all the other attractions go away, then why my attractions are not going away? And I was thinking, but hesitant to put that question actually. But thank you for saying it, Mataji, that and Prabhuji, that the one end is perfect and the other end has to improve a lot, or bit by bit, whatever is possible at a moment. So yeah, thank you. I mean, what mode I am listening, what instruction I am taking out of it for myself, I think that is to ponder about and work upon.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. But we have to be also very hopeful in that the direction is the good direction, because the other side is perfect. So we are definitely going in that direction. And if we have a little bit of sincerity, we would definitely go there. So wherever we are, whatever situation we are, we should give us more encouragement to move further. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other realization? Because Krishna Katha is something very amazing, and it changes the things the way it's very difficult to explain. So, yeah. Pran Pavitra Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
I'm just thinking.
I saw you just.
So, Mataji, just a question, Mataji. So, can it be fixed by ourselves from our end, or still that needs the blessings, prayers, mercy from Sri Guru?
Yeah. The parallel lines that we talked about, Prabhu, continuing sadhana bhakti, because the purification has to happen on one end,
Mataji.
and hearing from the raga bhaktas, like we are doing in the evening sangha. See from Srila Prabhupada, the faith, and he's just directly bringing us to the lotus feet of the Lord. So on one side, what is so natural of raga bhaktas is not natural to us yet. So just hearing from them regularly,
Mataji.
that itself, they will rub off on us. That is our hope. We cannot escape from it.
So that
They
inspires
will,
us. Okay.
yes, they will instill the faith. They will give the fondness that they have in their heart. So from our end, it's just continuing to associate and receiving from these raga bhaktas, acharyas on one side, and on the other side, continuing the sadhana bhakti regularly that we are doing, and we are bound to be taken where they are. So that is our hope. So we are doing it. Yeah. And as Josna Devi Mataji nicely said, at that point of time, for all of us, whatever helps us to move forward, to feel hopeful in bhakti and in service. Sometimes if we feel lethargic, then we need a little pinch to see what kind of devotee we are. We should, whatever helps us to get out of that lethargy, then we want to get some inspiration. If we are already doing our best, then we want to be hopeful and then just continue what we are doing. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
So still majorly it's like hearing Krishna Katha from pure devotees is the solution or the fixed.
Right.
Then
Yes.
fixing from our end.
Yeah. From our end is to continue to do it regularly. That's all.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. From
Thank
our
you.
end, we have to do, we have to go and find that pure devotee. We have to do that. And always, whenever there is a chance, we should grab that opportunity. So that is what we have to do, because on our effort we will not get Krishna, but by the mercy of the devotees of Krishna, by the Raganuga devotees of Krishna, we can get Krishna by their mercy. So it's our, because as Josna Mataji was saying, we are having some kind of where we are, because the other side is perfect, as again Ujjwala Mataji was mentioning. So we have to do our own sincere, like as a sadhana we are doing, but we have to also go and associate with those devotees who have that. And as Mataji was saying, it will rub off. There is no chance. And I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in Madhurya Kadambini that the bhakti is only given by the bhaktas. Even the Supreme Lord, Krishna, if he wants to give bhakti, he cannot give. Only by bhakta only can give the bhakti, because he has it. Krishna se tumar Krishna ditte paro, tumara shakati achi. So that means there are so many references which can be quoted for that. So it actually spills over from one devotee to us. So we have to be there so that it spills over and falls upon us. and we could get some mercy. And by that, we can understand the scriptures better. Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
true,
Yeah.
Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Prabhu, if I can add, if we can feel the withdrawal when we don't hear from a Raga Bhakta, as we did in past 4 days, when we did not hear anything from the acharyas, the bhajans or nothing, if we are feeling very deficit and withdrawal, that we want to hear from them, then that is good. Like alcoholics, when they don't have alcohol, they're going to withdrawal. For us, when we don't have the nectar, then we go into withdrawal. This is good. So yeah, again, that's for my sake. I wanted to add that.
Yeah, that separation, mode of separation is that. Withdrawal. Yeah, very beautifully put in. So beautiful discussion we had. Thank you. Any other discussion points?
Prabhu, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are reading and hearing Srila Prabhupada's purport.
Mhm.
That is also pure devotee association, right?
Yes.
That is because that's Srila Prabhupada we are reading and hearing from.
Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam again is Sukadeva Goswami Parishit Maharaj Samvad, and within those Samvad there is Maitreya Vidura Samvad. There are other devotees, and then Srila Prabhupada's purport, who is bringing those nectar to us. So yeah, it's all around bliss.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, all those devotees mentioned
Yeah,
in
but
Srimad
our
Bhagavatam
path should be
Yeah.
like open to
Mhm.
receive that. If our path is just on the opposite side or not in a proper position, it's difficult. But it will become proper. I'm saying we should be hopeful because we are hearing it. At some point, our patra will be like in the correct orientation, and when something comes, it goes in and sinks into.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this enlivening discussion. So this is a wonderful evening. So Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It's wonderful. Thank you.